Hello, everybody. Welcome to the PixelPlay Podcast, episode 147. Yes, there was an episode 146. You saw it. I'm sure you all did. It was there.
100%.
It was uploaded. It was recorded. Everything was fine. I didn't forget at any point to check that my audio levels were coming in, and I definitely didn't notice until as I was editing the show. And by editing, I mean literally just putting the music clip and putting a couple of transitions in there. You know, the amount of crazy good work that I do on this show, that I noticed that, I have no audio. So there's just 5 minutes in a row where, of course, me loudmouth motherfucker talking and going, there's nothing there. That's a problem. I guess we got no episode this week, guys, because... we only have one day a week that we record. You'll notice Kaylan's not here. Hi, Jen and Chris. Nice to see you. My name's Adam, a.k.a. CS Radical. I guess I should say that off the top as well. But Kaylan's not here. It is, I believe he said it was his 8th anniversary with his wife?
8th.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's away. For those who don't know how the sauce is made, I think we've probably said this before. We literally have one day that we record every week. And because of the way our schedules are, especially with Kaylan, because, dad, right?
Yeah.
And then Chris, because, backlog.
Also, yeah.
It's the one night we do. So as soon as we found out at the end of our recording session that, we don't have a recording technically, we went, well, do we want to record? And we're all like, it's like 10. No, not really.
No, we couldn't. There's no way we would have been able to.
I mean, we could have. It just would have been the shortest show we'd ever done because we would have been like, yeah, we're not doing an hour again.
No, we wouldn't have had the time. But you and I did do the live stream.
We did
of
stream
Helldivers.
on Thursday, so we did stream a little Helldivers. So if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, you should. And I guess we should say at the top of the show, what you did miss from episode 146, that's totally a real thing. I can't remember how we got onto this conversation, but at some point during our talk where we were talking about, how other games would make really good TV series, not just, after Fallout came out and everything like that. We talked about Serial for some reason, and we spent a little too long on it until we both realized, we should probably do this, as an actual thing at some point. And we noticed that, last time I checked, we were at 211 subscribers, so we said, and we are sticking to this plan, second we hit 250, we're doing a Serial episode. Bonus episode where we're just going to talk about Serial. I don't know how long it's going to be, knowing us. More than 30 minutes, knowing us.
Too long. It'll be an awkward amount of time to talk about Serial, and that's why I'm so excited.
But at 250, folks, get those subscribers in. Serial episode. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably do something weird at 500 or something. I don't know. If we do it every 50, it's going to start getting weird. We're going to run out of weird things to say at that point. So, but for now, 250, we will do a Serial episode. But otherwise, Chris... how are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening?
I'm doing good. Gaming-wise, I am still just so unfocused. I have no idea what's wrong with me.
You want to know how unfocused I am? I've went through 10 different games this week.
Jeez.
Just trying to find something to stick, and nothing sticking.
It's not that mine aren't sticking. For example, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I love that game. I think it's a masterpiece of a game. There's some things the too much open world shit added to Final Fantasy. Not a big fan of that, but for the most part, I love the game. But for some reason, just me having, I don't know if it's an attention span thing or just it's nicer weather outside, whatever it may be, but me sitting down just on a couch, loading up a game by myself to just play a single player game for a few hours, I don't know what it is. I can't do it. I just haven't had that, I don't know, that ability. So I've been playing a lot of things, but just a little bit of a lot of things.
Yeah.
I did complete a game, and it's kind of the only one I'll mention I did that with, which is Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town.
You finally finished your P-Cross game?
No, I did also beat that. I technically also beat that. I think I technically beat that for episode 146, and I didn't bring it up. I was just it was 450 Picross puzzles. I love Picross so much, and I get obsessed with it, but it becomes a problem where I'm in bed and I'm still doing the puzzles while I'm trying to sleep in my head, and it's like, what are you doing? It's like if you play too much solitaire or free cell. That happens to me
I
sometimes. Like
wouldn't
you're
know what
laying in
that
bed.
problem is either, so you're on your own on that one.
Oh god, I know somebody's listening to this that has had that before, where it's like you play too much of a simple puzzle or or a card game or something, and then you try and sleep, and you're still doing it in your head. Um, that was me with Picross. So I finished it, but it was like 450 puzzles, and I was done. When I got to the end, I was like, I am done with Picross for a while until they release another one that catches my eye. But the Story of Seasons game, obviously, it's Harvest Moon now in the West. It's Story of Seasons. Pioneers of Olive Town is like the newest one, I think. Okay, it's not the newest one, but it's the newest original one because the other new ones that came out are like remakes of like the GameCube era or PS2 era ones, Back to Nature and Friends of Mineral Town. I played Friends of Mineral Town, like the remaster or remake, or I don't know what the heck it technically is considered. I loved that one. I played through that during the pandemic, and it was one of those things where I loved going in, playing for a few days. Pioneers of Olive Town, I was in winter of year one, which for me, these games, for anybody who has never played one of these farming sims, usually it's about 2 years worth of length. And then you kind of get a rating at the end of like how well you did. Did you get a relationship? Did you get married? Did you have kids? How big's the farm? How much money did you make? What's your relationship with all the townsfolk? Like there's so much like random crap you're kind of rated on. Um, and every game, Stardew Valley, all the other Story of Seasons and Harvest Moons, I'd finish it right up till the end. Credits would roll. I loved it. Winter year one, I got married and I fucking uninstalled that game. That game is shit. That is the worst Story of Seasons game I've ever played in my life. And the only way I can describe it is also something I read online. It's like the characters in it have no soul. It's like it's just they all have like five things they say. I was engaged to a character. It was the day before our wedding. And then when I went to go talk to her, she was like, "Don't forget there's a fishing tournament in 3 days." It's like, bitch, we're getting married tomorrow. Like, there's no, that's the same dialogue she's been saying every day for like 5 days straight. And like the characters don't blink. It zooms in on these like chibi type characters, like big head, tiny little bodies. But like the characters don't blink for some reason in any of the animations I've noticed. And there's no like, even like in Story of Season stuff, there's like a cute little portrait of the character you're talking to with their dialogue and it's well written. It feels like this game was written by AI. Like it's weird how just the characters had no life. They had like five bits of dialogue, whether you were getting into a relationship with them or not. It was just the same thing over and over and over. It was extremely monotonous. Also, the game only has the town and your farm. Normally, there's like a mountain region you would go and explore in those games and stuff. They made that part of your farm. Your farm is just on some foresty area and you have to kind of get materials to make a bridge to extend it more and then you get more of the same shit and then you fix another bridge and you get more of the same shit. And the animals, you don't have to buy them, they're just in the wild. So as long as you've repaired the coop or the barn, you just tame animals for free. And because your farm's in the forest, it regrows like every 2 days. So every 2 days you're going out onto this farm, and normally I would clear everything, make a beautiful farm, and then that would be my farm and it would be easy to maintain. This game was like such a pain in the ass to even keep like a nice farm where you could actually do your shit. Like you'd go to water your stuff and three trees will have grown in your way in front of where your crops were. And it's like, how did trees grow in like 2 days? This makes no sense. Yeah, the game is just not a great Story of Seasons game at all. I highly suggest if anybody's like looking to pick up one,
Just
um,
pick up Stardew Valley.
pick up first. Always pick up Stardew Valley before any of these. Stardew Valley's like $16, and I put like 90 hours into into that.
I don't know what
This
it
game,
like. It just seems like Story of Seasons. Like as soon as like Harvest Moon 64 came out, and from then on, like they've always just been like, just
yeah,
just slightly change a couple of things, and we'll put it. Like they almost became sort of a an EA Sports of farming games at one point, because it just seems like they weren't really pumping a lot of life into it, which is
that's
so crazy
exactly.
because that game is kind of all about just a life simulator.
Yeah, it's a life simulator, and like Friends of Mineral Town, I think that one was a pretty easy one for them to remaster because I'm pretty sure it's a Game Boy Advance one,
Yeah,
which was very much designed around the like Super Nintendo version of Story of Seasons, just like a little bit, little quality of life stuff added there. And I think that's why that one was so easy for me to get into, because it felt very charming and very much like the older N64 SNES kind of Story of Seasons or Harvest Moon. Stardew Valley, same thing. Like I agree with you completely that that one seems to have like actual life in it. The way they wrote the characters, the actual design of everything. But
Because it
yeah,
just feels like the person who made that was a passion project to them. For whereas Story of Seasons for Natsume has basically been this is just they're like it almost feels like in the same way that like a lot of companies will just make games to keep the license.
yes,
Like it
yeah,
just feels like a lot of the time that's just them putting something out so that way the license stays with them.
yeah. And this Pioneers of Olive Town, they took a lot from Story of Seasons. So what it seems like the developers did this time is they're like, okay, our sales are kind of diminishing and everybody bought this fucking Stardew Valley. We have to do that. So they took some of the things from it and just made it so bad. Like in Story of Seasons, Story of Seasons, Stardew Valley. This is hard to go back between the two. You can make these machines where you'll like put in logs and it'll create lumber for you and that kind of stuff. But in Stardew Valley, they're not needed and they're like a nice to have, and they're designed in a way that you can put them in a back corner and you'll never even see them. In this game, they take up a huge space and you require them in order to use your farm. Like if you want that bridge so you can get to the next little island in the forest or expand your farm, which is where the barn is. So without doing it, you can't have any livestock. Um, you need these machines. And they take up like it says only 4 squares, but it has this like area around it. So it's almost an entire crop of vegetables, like a 3x3 that this machine sits on, and it's real time. So if you put in 10 logs, it will actually take so many in-game hours for it to be ready. Now, I think Stardew Valley, it's the same thing, but Stardew Valley, you're only doing it because it's like, oh, it'd be cool to craft this cool table or something unique for my house. Not needed for your farm. You'd only build that stuff and do it if you really wanted to role play that heavily. You could completely ignore it, not need it. Here they made it mandatory, and I'd put in 10 logs and I'd need 30 lumber to build this bridge, and it would take 4 in-game days for that machine to be done. And it's just like, what the hell is the point of this? Like, so I'm just doing my farming shit, waiting to expand this bridge. Some days I woke up, I was like, there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to wake up and go right to bed. Take flowers to the girl I'm trying to marry, and then go right back to bed at like 8:30 in the morning because I just need it to be the next day so my lumber's ready. It was brutal.
It's one of those things that like I'm surprised that especially with Stardew Valley being as successful as it was that no one else has really tried to take a good go at being the second like the number 2 behind it.
Yeah.
Even to the point that like I'm honestly shocked that there isn't a gotcha game like level like basically farming sim clone, but it's more anime graphic-y and similar to what a Genshin Impact does. I'm surprised no one's done that yet. Maybe there is something that's close to it, but I haven't really seen it. But like just specifically a harvest, like a gotcha game, not in terms of like actual gotcha game mechanics, but in terms of like how it's very waifu and husbando bait.
Yeah.
Where it's just
There
really
was that.
well like anime drawn and it's just literally a farming sim. And like maybe there is one and it just didn't do very well because it might suck. But like I haven't seen like we'll see like Power World for example is like an example of like something that's sort of in that vibe of like crafting and such, but it's not waifu bait. But like it really I'm surprised we haven't gotten like at any point whether it's a Summer Game Fest or a PlayStation trail like there's not been like some trailer even like Nintendo one of their what's their streams called? Why am I blanking? Like they're just
Like the
Nintendo
indie
Directs. There we
showcase
go.
or
The
Nintendo
Directs.
Direct, yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
surprised that we haven't seen someone come out there and be like, hey, here's Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon or Story Seasons, whatever you want to call it at this point. But look at all the waifus and all the husbandos. Look at them sexy anime boys and girls. And we'll be like, damn, that's probably going to be trash. But, you know, at least it's there now. Surprised no one's done it. Because it just seems like it's a market that does so well. I mean, look at Stardew Valley's sales. Like, if you really thought that they would do as much as they did for a farming sim, it tells you like what people want. Same thing with Animal Crossing during the pandemic. Like it tells you like how desperate people are for just a life simulator that has a life that doesn't fucking suck.
Yeah, and it's not added combat, not like You still have to do the dungeon crawling and this and that and that. Because I've noticed there are some that exist, but it seems to be like farm during the day. Now go and fight all the monsters. And it's like not just, they feel like it's not enough to just be a
It's like,
cozy
you can just be
sim.
chill, right?
Yeah, like I know Stardew Valley does have the mine where you can
But you
go
don't
and you
have
can
to
like
do it.
fight it. You don't have to do it at all. Like you can literally just live your best life and go fishing and do this and do that and do that. Yeah, I am surprised because the only thing that came to mind when you mentioned this was Square Enix has that one like Harvestella or something like that. I can't even remember the
Couldn't even tell you
name
because
of it.
I mean, the fact that it's Square Enix and I don't know about it all that much tells me that it obviously isn't very popular. So
No, I don't think it's very popular because it again, Square Enix tried to put their spin on it where it's like, oh, you're in a town and you're gonna do like farming, but there's also this weird curse on the town and you have to leave at night to go kill all these things and blah 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 so that your crops can grow. And it's like, I don't want to do it. Like, I just want a cozy but like well written when you talk to characters and they seem like they actually exist game, right? Because the only other thing I did is I've been playing some retro games. Like I've been really into doing that, like in the Switch Online service or just ROMs on my Steam Deck. And I loaded up the original Harvest Moon because I was super curious. That's what started
like
this.
the old Super Nintendo one.
Yeah, the original Harvest Moon on Super Nintendo, like the original of all these, the six, everything, right? And because I know there was very big limitations on that, I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to some townspeople and start a new game. Do they have more life than Pioneers of Olive Town? And as I'm talking to these characters, besides broken translation and such, because it was the first, and the fact that like characters could only have like you named your character, you could only use 4 letters and stuff like that, like certain limitations. Obviously, that's a Super Nintendo thing or maybe a time crunch thing. I don't know, but you talk to the characters and I was like, besides the like broken translation clearly here or limitations for putting in the dialogue, these characters have more life or like more to say and they're more interesting than somehow all the characters in Olive Town. And it's just because Olive Town, they weren't trying to make great characters. They were just trying to put in like, all right, here's the 5 things this person says, here's the five things this person says. Where the other town in Harvest Moon actually felt real and you needed it. You had to go there to buy livestock and talk to this person, and the daughter of the livestock person is Anne, and that's who you could marry, and all this stuff. And
It's crazy too, because like if you're a weeb or a big connoisseur of anime like I am, I know you're not, Chris, but like the amount of isekai anime where it's about a person getting reincarnated in a world, in a fantasy world, and all they do is farm or just live a chill life. Like it used to just be like 1 or 2, and it's a common show now. Like almost every season, there's at least one isekai anime where it's just the guy who doesn't want to fight, he doesn't want to become a hero, he just wants to fucking chill.
yeah,
And it's like almost every season there's one like that now. And it's like
yeah,
even Japan hasn't, like, from what I can see, really like had a big one that's come out that's marketed to that. Maybe because Story of Seasons is the one there, but like it's
yeah.
crap. Like it's not what I would expect a good quality game to be, especially when you have something like Stardew Valley here, which shows what the potential actually is. So like
Yeah.
I hope down the road, because I want to get back into these types of games. It's just I haven't found the right one. Like even Stardew, like it's fine, but like it wasn't clicking with me. So like it could just be a fact of like maybe those games aren't for me anymore. But I was a big Harvest Moon 64 guy when I was younger, so who knows? Could just be a times have changed sort of deal. But like
Oh, for
the
sure.
fact that like we've seen a surge of chill games now, but like this like farming specifically has not hit that hard other than Stardew is kind of shocking to me actually.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Because I love that genre, just cozy games in general, and I need a much better written Story of Seasons. I just need one. I really do. Yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Yeah,
Complaining about Harvest Moon.
I mean, Aiden Chronicle 100 Heroes just came out today, so I popped in and just got maybe about 2.5, 3 hours into it. I gotta say, like this game, it's got a good shot at if it stays to what it's doing, this could be up there in the top 3 for me this year. Because the first bit of it already, and this is like tutorial, where in a JRPG we all know they can be slow. It wasn't too bad, but like it is a gorgeous game. Fucking gorgeous game for that 2.5D sort of a remake, kind of like what Octopath Traveler and Star Ocean the Second Stories remake has done. It's gorgeous. The voice acting, I'm playing in English on this one because I did recognize some of the key voice actors at the start. For example, one of the first, actually the first character I recruited outside of the ones that you start with at the beginning of the game, the voice actor for him is the same guy who does one of my favorite NPCs from Destiny 2. So I'm like, okay. You're giving me stuff I want. I'm down with that. That's pretty cool. So I'm starting to unlock some people. I've only got, I think in total I've done six so far. And you start with 4 at the beginning of the game. Like you see 6 in the screenshot on YouTube right now. 2 of them aren't technically yours yet. They're temporary. So, but you start with 4 at the beginning of the game. I've now recruited 2 more to my ranks. And it's the same thing you remember with Suikoden. By the way, this game is a successor to the Suikoden series. And it is that 128. So it's still continuing. You're still getting the sheer, like, they're not all playable party members. Some of them will probably end up being shopkeepers or innkeepers or just regular NPCs. I know in the older games, some of them were just literally like the daughter of somebody and they just kind of got brought onto the journey. Like it's the blacksmith's daughter or something like that, right? So not every single character is going to be hoisting a weapon and walking into battle with you, but quite a number of them are. And even in the first little bit, I can tell which characters are probably villains and which characters are probably going to be future members because they have a name and they have a voice. They're going to be one of 2 things. They ain't sitting by on this game. It's not like when you have a voiced character that they could be still an NPC. No. In this kind of a game with 128 potential party members, they are either against you or with you, and there's no in between here. So anytime I see a name and a voice, I'm like, okay, are you going to betray me or not? And then I'm also like, how soon am I going to be able to get you? Are you going to be in the next couple of hours, or are you going to be like 10 chapters down the road, you know, when we have to like invade something for you guys and you eventually join us like way like 30 hours into the future? Who knows? But it's kind of the fun of it. It's just sitting there waiting and being like, all right, who's with me? Who's going to be part of my 128 league of just, let's be honest, mostly very attractive characters because it's Japan and it's a video and it's a, you know, a JRPG. They all gotta be mostly hot, except for like the couple of either old ones or in this case furry characters, because one of your first party members is a lichen. So, but yeah, like voice acting's okay for what has been so far. Nothing too obnoxious. I did listen to a bit of the Japanese dub. If I actually would have preferred to do one, I would have done Japanese. But I'm also playing it in a Discord with people, so I try to play it in English just so people can hear it in the background anyway. But like the English isn't bad enough that it would take away. Kind of not like Yakuza, where I cannot play those games in English.
I could never.
Just can't.
No.
So this one's perfectly fine. The combat is decent to start with. I haven't really done too much to see like how it fleshes out yet, but like mostly you can put it on auto, because the way that it works is at the beginning of every fight, your party members will get anywhere between 1 to 3 SP at the start, and it's completely random. So sometimes they could have 0, sometimes they could start with 3. And they have a special ability that can cost anywhere between 1 and 5. I haven't gotten anybody that does more than 3 yet. I'm sure that's a down the road system. And then after that, every turn they just gain 1 SP on top of that. So you can start chaining abilities, or you can just throw them in auto, and if they have an ability unlocked that they can use, they'll do that. Otherwise, they'll just fight. Some of them do have magic. I haven't come across a lot of magic users yet, so I haven't gotten to play with that yet, but we'll be seeing how all that goes as time goes on. But like 3 hours in, I'm liking this. And as someone who is also looking forward to the Suikoden 1 and 2 remastering that they're doing, I'm excited to see what they do with that too, which is a great time to say, hey, this week on our side quest, we're going to actually talk about games that we think could use that 2.5D remake treatment, similar to, like we said, an Octopath Traveler, or in this case, Aiden Chronicle 100 Heroes. So if you got Game Pass right now and you're a JRPG guy, absolutely check this out. Hopefully in the next... I did check how long to beat. It said anywhere between 45 and 60 hours, so I'd probably say in the next 2 to 3 weeks, you'll probably get me with a final review. I say that out loud knowing, I'll probably have it done next week. I doubt that, though. 60 hours is a long time, so we'll see. But yeah, 3 hours in, I'm liking it, and already I have one more thing I want to talk about. The sprite animations in this game are amazing. The attention to detail that they've done with some of the facial expressions and how they move around is fucking fantastic. One of the characters that you start with, Leanne, she is the peppy anime girl, and you can fucking tell every second she reacts to stuff. And I appreciated that it's not just, the standstill and like 1 or 2 poses that are like cross arm or nodding. No, there are definitely some different animations that they've done for different situations. So they've done a good job for now on how some of these sprites react. And maybe certain ones get more treatment than others. We'll see. But like, All the boxes are checking right now. I've seen reviews where they say the story is a little lackluster, but I would also say like I've played Suikoden's 3, 4, and 5. They've never been like the most crazy good stories. They're mostly like B- stories, but it's more the gimmick of look how many people you can recruit. Like that's always been the big gimmick. So all I know is I'm at 6 party members now, and I'm like, I already like most of these people, but there's going to come a point where I'm going to have, okay, I love all 6 of you. I don't know how I'm ever going to take anybody out of this party. And then party member number 37 is going to come around, and I'm going to be like, son of a bitch. Who do I get rid of? I love this character so much. I have to put them in, but who do I take out? And that's going to happen eventually, and I'm not prepared for it. But also I'm okay with that because that means that the game's doing its job. Because it's not good if you have a game with 128 characters and you only like 3 of them.
I felt like that about Chrono Cross sometimes. Not 3, it's definitely more than that. But there is a bunch of characters I'm like, oh no.
Oh, there's some where it's like, and to the side you go. Yeah. And then you go, goodbye. Son of a bitch, you fight with a carrot and a drum. Why? I need you. Or it's, you fight with a guitar? I'm like, okay. Yeah, this... And also, at least this game's nice enough to give you 6 party members. Chrono Cross was 3.
Yeah,
that was painful.
6 is nice. I like that.
That's only including party members. There is a support role, and there's 3... I can't remember what it was an assistant. Maybe it was attendant. So it looks like there are like up to 10 that you can carry into battle with you, but only 6 of them are fighting, whereas there might be 4 doing something else. I don't know if it's 1 in a support role and 3 reserves, maybe. Maybe that's what the other 3 open spots are. But like at the very least, they're giving you a good chance to take a good number of people with you, so you don't feel like you're having to like really pick and choose between, like in the case of Chrono Cross, you have 3 and one of them has to be the lead. So it's really 2. Which sucks.
Yeah, this is much better. I like that idea, 6 party members. And just from the video feed, obviously, if you're watching the YouTube channel, that does look gorgeous. That looks like a really nice looking
this and Sea of Stars are 2 of the most gorgeous 2.5D games I've seen in a while. Like, oh yeah. Like not counting, like say what Arc Systems Work does with like Guilty Gear right now. If I'm talking JRPGs, these 2 I'm putting next to each other and being like, these are the best of the best right now. And if there's any others, let me know because I want to play those too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because like there are other games like Chained Echoes is fine. Like Octopath Traveler is fine. But like Sea of Stars and Aiden Chronicle are both like shining examples. There are reflection detailing in this game. So it's like, okay. We're definitely making pixel art so much better now. I love it. I'm in for that.
Oh, yeah.
Because as we've said before, and we'll talk about it probably at some point in the side quest, like, man, games with these kind of graphics age so much better.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yeah.
Which also reminds me, I was also playing a little bit of Life is Strange True Colors again because I was trying to find something to play. And I was like, you know what? I'll go back because I was talking to people about how much I love it because we were talking about the podcast and how I thought Life is Strange would make a good TV series. Yep. And I was like, man, True Colors is so good. And I was like, shit, I got nothing else to do. I'll play it again. I was playing the first episode and I'm like, I think this is about the good point where I think we're like games can age decently now, no matter what kind of graphics they use, unless it's intentionally bad looking graphics.
Yeah.
But like any game now that comes out with like the average graphical style that we have now, they'll age decently now because I think that we're at a point now where the fidelity is good enough that it'll be fine. The frame rate's going to be the difference now going forward. But like any game that comes out on the PS5 today, if I was playing it 20 years later, I'd be like, yeah, graphically it still looks fine. Oh, yeah. I don't think it's at a point now that I could say it's bad. I'll just be able to say, damn, like we still got better stuff now, but like, I think they did okay now. It's not like where you play obviously, a PlayStation game or an N64 game where it ages poorly.
Very poorly. Oh yeah, PS1, N64. You need emulators with like retexturing and like it's still going to look very polygonal, but at least it'll look like sharp versus just like, what the am I even looking at? Like,
but it's definitely at a point now that with games like obviously Sea of Stars and Aiden Chronicle, that these are games that are similar to what Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI were for us when we were younger. They're going to be kids our age when we were playing 6 and Chrono Trigger that are going to play Sea of Stars or play Aiden Chronicle, and 20 years later being like, it's aged beautifully.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love the fact that we have games that if we do preserve them, hey, that's a great segue. I'll get to that in a second. But if we preserve those games, it'll be great because somebody playing those 20 years from now will go, oh, it's not some broken old piece of shit. They'll just be like, oh, that's not too bad for a game that came out in, what's that, 2024? As they're playing this in 2045 or something.
Yeah. When
But
we're playing it in
speaking
2045.
of things that we aren't going to be able to play in 2045, or even in this case of 2024 anymore, I guess we just should finally say it. Hey, fuck Ubisoft again.
Oh,
Because among other games that have gotten the same treatment, what was the one you were mentioning in the Discord or recently that also was having it?
So the Wii U and the 3DS.
Oh, just
had
like the
their
overall
servers shut
stores.
down.
Yeah.
And but game-wise,
Little Big Planet, that was
3.
the one, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but like the Ubisoft with the Crew has now ended its servers, which means there's no way to play this game ever again. And it brings up that conversation. We've had it already on the show about preservation, but now we have a different case of that because we're not talking like some PlayStation 1 game that you just can't find in stores anymore. We're talking about a game that is less than 10 years old.
Yeah.
And only was available for online multiplayer. People could say, well, I've got a disc, I should be able to play it, but it's an online game, so you can't. And the conversation has to come up again. What do we do in this case? I mean, the answer to me is obvious, but we know that they'll never do it because it's extra work. But quite frankly, like the easiest answer that I came up with, Chris, is, if you want to have it so that a server's running it, I understand that there's a reason that you want that over peer-to-peer because it's a different structure, or it's a little less intensive because the server load can handle that better when it's all coming from one place. I get it. Totally understand. That being said, if your game is literally 100% dependent on being an online game, and that includes games that did this stupid dumb shit DRM stuff that even if it's an offline game, it still needs some sort of online presence.
God, yeah.
There needs to be something in the framework, whether when you launch this title and you just lock it away, or it's your responsibility that when you're going to shut down these servers to put the work in, to put the ability to make it peer-to-peer afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
I know the latter is not going to ever happen because telling a company for a game that they're making zero money off of to spend, I don't know how long it would take to put that system in, they'll never do it. So then we should probably in the industry mandate that if your game is going to be online only, to ensure that that system exists in some facet, whether it's locked until the game is shut down or the option exists for both, that there are dedicated servers, but you can also have, as a lot of old games used to do, custom servers where you just set up your own and you can play it with your friends. That option should always exist in these games. I don't care. Like, I've seen a lot of people during this conversation be like, oh, who cares? It's the Crew. I don't care. If 10 people are playing this game when it closes, I don't care. It should be an ability to do so because you never know what's going to happen down the line.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
For movies, for example, was the Rocky Horror Picture Show or Clue or Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, for example, those 3 movies, were they box office attractions? No, they were not. Are they infinitely more watched today than they were before? Absolutely. And is there a problem with accessing these anywhere? No.
No, they're all available
There
digital.
is somewhere that has this. You know why? Because it's a lot easier to do. Admittedly, it's a movie. That's pretty easy to set up somewhere. A game is a little bit different, but I have to say, don't care.
Yeah.
It is a thing in this industry. You're doing this to consumers, and if I go on my shelf and grab a box that has a disc on it that I paid money for, there is under no circumstance ever a point that I should not be able to put that disc in and play it. I don't care what your game is. There needs to be some sort of framework that if 10 years down the road, if I want to play this game, even for 5 minutes, there has to be a way to do so.
Oh, 100%. And I fully agree. Because as you mentioned, the preservation of games talk's already been had, but we had it more like, there's these games, they're 35 years old, And the only reason that they're not running today is not because the cart doesn't work or whatever. It's because they were built for a specific hardware. That hardware is not made anymore. So unless you have it, you have to find it secondhand, and it's, a whole thing. But it's not like gaming companies are putting out games like, yeah, this is going to be obsolete and that's fine. It's just they weren't thinking about it back in the day, right? They're not making the Super Nintendo going, whoa, what do we do when we move on to the next one and people
Well, and
demand these
also it's
games
just a
still?
case too of like eventually there's only so many cartridges left that have survived,
Yeah.
and if you can't even find them, they ain't cheap most of the time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
with the old
100%.
ones, it's an issue of just there isn't enough copies anywhere. And that's where, as we said before, there needs to be some sort of thing where it's like, hey, under X amount of time, if you don't sell this anywhere, it should be available that somebody can take this emulator, give it to, or this emulated ROM of the game, because almost everything has a ROM somewhere. Like almost every single
Oh,
game,
100%.
especially the old ones, somebody's got a ROM of it. So it should be able to be passed to some sort of, I don't know what the company would be that we delegate, whether it's through the ESA or whatever else, that is literally the library for video gaming history that says, hey, this game is not available anywhere, so here is an emulated version of the game that either you can play, like stream, or play right there on this application or browser, or whatever it may be, or here's the direct download and here's an emulator to use it with. Don't care how, it should
100%.
just exist. Whereas now we're talking about an online service, which is, like I said, it should be something more that the framework should be able to be put in there, so that there's going to be a way for people to open up servers through their own connection to be able to still play these going forward. Or, and they would never do this, give the source code so that people can do it for you. But they would never do that because, especially with a game like The Crew, you never know. They might want to make another one. They don't want to give, assets that they have.
No, for sure. And I think, this is a new problem, and it's definitely not one like these gaming companies were thinking of when they're making these games, because servers cost money. I understand why they want to shut them down.
Yeah.
If there's only 10 people playing The Crew and Ubisoft is paying money every year for servers for a game that's clearly not making them anything, I understand the business desire to close that down, but you have to have options, like, because
there's paying customers that you're basically saying this isn't worth anything anymore.
Yeah,
because like what happens now, like, this is a game that if you throw that on the market now, it's worthless. It's literally worthless.
Yeah, this game is worth less than like NHL 08 at GameStop, which is insane to me, because that's like a quarter. Like, oh, it's crazy, because
like, I don't know who buys the, like, if you somebody will probably put this up in Kijiji now, and like, who's buying it? Unless you're just collecting. Like, the only way that it's going to be a thing is you're just collecting a copy if you're looking to have the library full of all these games. Like, you're just looking to have a copy of every single game that released on this console. That would be one way of looking at it, but like, you're not buying it to play it now.
No, you can't, even if you wanted to. And it's ridiculous because, sure, again, this is The Crew. I personally have no desire to play this one, but Little Big Planet this happened to, that Dreams thing on PlayStation, I'm pretty sure that's what happened with that too. And then it gets even bigger, which we, had been talking about a little bit, because digital stores weren't a thing before, and servers and all that, but PS3 era onward, it is. And the PS3 store was always being talked about like, oh, it's going to be shut down. The Vita, its store is shut down, and there's no access to all of this stuff. The Vita, you have to get it hacked so you can download these games. Unless you can manage to find the physical copies, which tons of these games were digital only, and they're now gone from the Vita. No way to get it on there. 3DS and Wii U, they're not that old, and they're gone now. Sure, Nintendo gave a warning, hey, this is gonna be the last day, but it's like people were still playing the 3DS and the Wii U. I think the 3DS even more so than the Wii U, because the Wii U was what it was. And you've got all these people that were gonna like play an Animal Crossing game, gonna play Mario Kart 7, all of that stuff, and it's just gone. Yes, a lot of those games have single player, but again, what about all those digital only games that were on the 3DS? What about the 3DS's 3D gimmick? It only really works on the 3DS. And now if you wanted to buy and download one of those NES games that's been turned into a 3D game like Kirby's Adventure, you can't even get it anymore. It was digital only. Like, this wasn't a cartridge you could find. So the only thing you can do is either find a hacked copy somewhere online, Or you have to find somebody who had a 3DS, they're selling it, they already had those games and already have them downloaded on the 3DS. Otherwise, those
Which
games are
good luck with
gone.
that. And if you even do
Yeah,
find it, it ain't gonna be cheap.
no, because that person knows now they have a gold mine. Um, so this is a terrifying thing because, oh my God, like I have a 3DS. It's with my sister right now because she still plays it almost on a daily basis, and she got locked out of it. She was like, "Hey, I went to go, download my game, and I can't. It's giving me an error. Do you know what's up?" I'd explained to her the 3DS had shut down, like it was done. Um, and then we started looking at solutions, which luckily the community does start to do some stuff. I don't know if you've heard of Pretendo that's been coming out.
Yep.
It's like custom servers that are like fan made for the Wii U and the 3DS and stuff. Sure, people are going to step in, but it's not like Nintendo made that available. Like, hey, we
Yeah,
updated the
well, the
Wii U and
core
3DS.
thing is it shouldn't be our job to do that.
100% exactly. And that's where using the crew again, that's where it's going to be. Because, like you said, unless they open it up like, listen, we can't afford these servers. So we're going to now update the game so it's peer to peer, or so you can have your own, custom fan servers. You can use those and you can connect to them in the game. We'll update it. We just won't financially be able to have our servers running anymore. But
And I
like,
think people
they're
would
not going
understand
to do
that
that.
because it's like, how old is the crew now? Let me quickly Google that.
Probably
Crew
11, 10, 11 years?
is
9 years.
is
God, when was that
yeah,
even?
2014. It's 10 years now.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, people understand. But like, here's the great example: two games that we play with our friends a lot. One of them we don't play right now, but we get back to once in a blue moon. Helldivers 2 right now, and Killing Floor 2.
Yeah.
Killing Floor 2 has that ability to create custom servers. Helldivers 2 doesn't at this point.
Yeah.
There could be a potential down the road where we can't play that game together anymore.
Or solo or anything. Like it would just, it's a
And
server
that's
only
really
game.
shitty to think about now.
Yeah.
Like it's probably not going to be a thing for at least a year, if not longer, depending on how well things go in the future for Arrowhead. But like as it stands right now, there's no framework for it.
Yeah.
And like it should be, it's now up to us. So like in the example of Arrowhead with Helldivers 2, we should be saying, hey, don't worry about it right now. We know you guys are busy with a bunch of other stuff, but hey, can we get some sort of framework that this could be possible? Because if you guys ever shut the servers down, we want to still be able to play this game at some point. Like that
For
should be
sure.
something we just demand out of every every game that we love their online service for. If they don't have that ability to create a custom server that runs from you, then this should be an option now. Like Killing Floor, it's literally as simple as, all right, creating a custom game, we're going to do this server, and we'll go find something.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. We're lucky with Killing Floor because, I mean, they're very PC centric, and usually that's like a PC thing. But it's like Killing Floor, look how old that game is. That's like as old as the crew, and it's just luck. We're lucky in the sense that it's still popular. Because that's what determines if the servers are being used a lot, people are still buying the game. Therefore, the money they're making is greater than the cost of the
for
servers.
God's sakes, original Counter-Strike
Yeah.
can still play it.
Yeah. And people do. And I get it. The crew still not as popular, but what would happen if all of a sudden it's like, all right, you know what? We're going to shut down the Counter-Strike servers because there's not that many people on it. Like, are you telling me that people won't, even if it's 5 to 10 years from now, have an inkling where it's like, wow, they have like an aching to go back and like play one of these old games. I get it all the freaking time. I'm telling you right now, 10 years from now, for some nostalgic reason, because we've always played over Christmas, like you, me, and other friends, Killing Floor 2, perfect example, like you mentioned, that's like a December tradition for us where we go in and play it for a while. If that was 10 years from now, even though that game is quite old, I'm still going to have that itch for us to all go in and play that game. And if the servers were all shut down and the game was just dead, that would suck. That's devastating. Like, people love to play what they consider retro games, and eventually these games would have been that. Some of these games will never reach retro status because they're dead before they'd even get there, right? And the crew would have been that. Eventually, there would have been people who've been like, I want to go back and play that game. That game was sick. It's like going back and playing Grand Theft Auto 3. People get that feeling. You know, you and me watch Games Done Quick, and you're even been a part of it and stuff. Like, that is, again, all based on nostalgia. It's very rarely new games. It's all these older great games that we loved growing up, and some of them are very niche. It's like, hey, no one's ever seen this weird ass NES game, but I'm going to play it for you all and you're all going to see it, and now new interest comes in it. And like with these online only games, we're going to lose that when they close. So I completely agree with you. I think that there needs to be this server, it's got to be opened up after. It's like, cool, we're getting rid of this game, we're not using it, so boom, it's gone. And warnings, like they have to put out warnings, not just like, oh, we're closing this down in a month. Also, when getting into these games, there's got to be some sort of wording.
There needs to be, and this has been a conversation now, there needs to be labels on the box or on the digital storefronts that are saying this is an online only game. Please be warned that at any point this could be completely shut down.
Yeah.
Like something like that. And I went to go search up a couple of things here. So here is just a little bit of context for, these are all games that you can still play today. And they are old as shit. Killing Floor 2, which is 8 years old. There are still 3,000-ish concurrent players. Can easily play it. Doesn't make a difference. Counter-Strike 1.6. That is, as I quickly Google when that one came out, that was 1999. There are still 2,500 people playing that game, and you can still play it.
Yep.
And then, as I Google when this came out, Day of Defeat Source, which is the World War II version of Counter-Strike, came out in 2005. There are, at this very moment, 270 people playing that game. And they can still play that game because of the framework in that game that allows you to do custom servers.
Yep.
That is a game that its all-time peak was 3,000. And its usual averages are anywhere between 200 to 500 in the last basically 10 years. And you can still play those at any time.
Yeah.
There is no excuse in 2024 that we can't have that option. And the reason we can't have that option is, let's be honest, it's expensive to the developer. It is not expensive to anybody else. It is all about cutting as many costs as possible, and who cares what happens to the consumer afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
That is the reality.
100%.
Ubisoft knew from the very beginning. I let this conversation of, oh, we didn't really know what we were doing back then. Bullshit. You made a game that you knew was online only, and you knew it wasn't going to last forever. And you still said, we're going to charge people for this and not tell them that this could go away at any moment. Because they'll probably just say, well, you had to know it's online only. You had to know you were buying a product that could just go away like that. To which I go, yeah, we do. But also, you charge us $80 for that. So fucking put some work into it.
Yeah. Because, if it was Counter-Strike 1.6, like you mentioned, 1999, yeah, they probably weren't thinking about servers and stuff way back in 1999. It was a brand new thing, right? They wouldn't have been oh, they were more like, wow, look at this new thing we can do online and the blah, blah, blah. But the crew in 2014, they already knew that servers weren't a permanent thing. They were like, we're going to do this, and eventually, yeah, of course we'll shut it down as soon as it's not financially viable. And they probably did talk what happens to people who bought the game, and they probably thought, yeah, well, they've already played it, they got their money's worth, and now the game's over.
That's the other thing too. It's that conversation of, yeah, but not everyone's going to be playing the crew 15 years from now. That's not the point, guys. How many people are watching a 1960s movie, 1960 Western movies, right? I don't even know. I can't even name one because I don't care. But that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be a place for that movie to be available. Just because there's a 100%. Show like I Love Lucy, just because basically no one watches that show anymore unless they're your grandparents that have their either internet TV or their satellite dish where they have the Classics 24/7 channel where it shows that shit. Just because there's 100 people that do it does not mean that that shouldn't exist somewhere. Because even for that 100 people, that option's there. So why is it this industry that this always happens to? Music doesn't have this problem. Films don't have this problem. TV doesn't have this problem. It's just us. Why is it always just us? And why is no one doing anything?
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the frustrating part. It's because we know they don't, because the ESA, every time they have the chance, I can't remember when it was, but there was a chance to have like an actual place set up as a library for all of these things, and the ESA voted against it. And we know why, because it's against the competitive market, because they can't make as much money if they can't potentially down the line take the game that is unavailable currently and then remake it and charge you another $60 for it, or however much they choose
100%.
to.
Or do some sort of subscription service for playing older games like Nintendo and Xbox and PlayStation. Like, yeah, that's 100% what it is. And with movies and music, they're able to make them digital. Like, obviously, you're not going to get film reels in everybody's hand. Not everybody uses discs anymore. In fact, it's very digital now. But what they did is they took the movies and they've been digitizing them and making them available. They keep the originals. They've got them stored. It's an important history piece. Like, keep it there. We'll keep maintaining it, all that. With games, people will be like, oh, well, it's different because it was carts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
that's so different, guys.
Which is bullshit, because every fucking game from 1980 until 2000 is basically available as a ROM digitally. You can find so much of those games that it's like $2,000 for the physical cart. You can find those.
You can go to a website and go NES ROM collection, and there's every single fucking game that ever existed, or at least that people can find and put to a ROM, and it's like less than a gigabyte, and there it all is. Go find your emulator and have fun. But that's the point, is we have to go to these, like, let's be honest, illegal measures to do that. It should just be a case of it's all there on a place, especially for the old stuff. Like, that's a whole other conversation. But, like, stuff like this with the crew, it's a simple case of, like I said, the framework should be there. Or, at this point, and I hate to say it because I don't ever like having to say this out loud, but the government needs to step in and actually start mandating this shit and start legislating it. Because there has to be some sort of consumer protection for this.
Yeah.
Like, if I spend money on something, it should, like, it's mine. I own it now. And now I can't play it, so do I actually own what I just purchased?
Yeah. And the thing is from a financial standpoint, you turn off the servers, fine, we get it. Make the game now $5 going forward, and make it where the servers, though, are custom. Like fan servers only. You have to have your own servers. We're not doing any online you got to do it like peer-to-peer, whatever. But the game's only like a $4.99 game. And that's it. It's just off in the universe. If anybody would ever want to join in, because 7 people are still playing on their fan server, and one of their friends is like, I'd love to join, and buys this $5 game. Like, they may make some sales. They may even make just a little bit of money, even though it'd only be a few bucks. But still, now they're going to make zero. They've closed this game forever. There is no more money ever coming in from the crew. They have turned it off, shut it down. It's dead forever. At least this way, also, it keeps it not just alive for fans, but hell, Ubisoft, you make like a couple bucks maybe here or there. It's better than zero. It's a digital game on a digital store.
It's an easy win. You throw that framework in, and you say like, hey guys, the crew from now on any storefront will be $5.
Yeah. I think fans would be upset that the servers are closing, but then also get happy because it's like, oh, okay, so now this is just a $5 game and it's in our hands to run it. Perfect. I feel like it would be fine. Like, I feel like that would be a great solution. I'm not a developer or a coder.
No, I'm like, we're talking like it's the simplest thing in the world. I'm well aware that if the game, like for Helldivers, for example, I don't think it's going to be a 10-minute job to throw in the framework for peer-to-peer servers. I don't think that's that easy. Yeah. I know it would be like months of work probably, right? But like, here's the thing. I don't care. I'm sorry to say it. Like, I know it's going to obviously, like, it means putting people to work, but like, this is what the industry is supposed to be like. Unfortunately, we have an industry where these kind of things take a little bit longer than just uploading a video file to a database. Like, yeah, I understand it's a little bit more different now, but that's the problem that you just have to figure out. So I don't know if the industry collectively, again, through the ESA or whoever it may be, need to come together and figure out a solution to this. But the solution is not to do nothing, because that's fucking stupid.
And that's what they're doing. Besides closing the game and making
because they
an
know.
email.
They know that, like, we got more games that you're just going to pay us for anyway. Who cares if you're not going to play that one thing anymore? Just come play any of the other stuff that we're just going to try to sell you now. That's what it is.
Play The Crew 2. Go play The Crew 2. It's the same thing.
So, like, and that's what I mean. It's like, it's going to have to be from the government now, because I don't believe for a second the industry is going to do itself.
No, I really don't. It's too much making
I mean,
sure
what we can do is like with individual developers, like I said, Helldivers folk, get on the subreddit and just every day be like, hey guys, in the future, it doesn't have to be now, but can we get the framework in for peer-to-peer so that if the servers ever go down, you know, we're still going to be able to play this game when it's done. Like, that's all it is. If that's what we have to do for the time being, I'm okay with that. Like, that's perfectly fine to me. But for the companies that we know that won't do anything, EA, Ubisoft, etc., that should be government mandated now. I don't like the government having to be involved in this, because the government in video games still don't have the greatest relationship right now. But fuck it. It's the only way. It's honestly the only way now, because the industry will not police itself to do so. There's just no way.
No, they won't. There is no way. It's probably the only thing that could be done. Because if nobody's going to force them, they're not just going to do it themselves. They'd have to be a really good developer. And the only one who's going to be that is some indie developer, where this probably won't be a problem because they're not making server-based games usually.
Well, that's the thing with live service games, right? Is like, what happens when the live service is dead? Like, Marvel's Avengers or Foam Stars or like whatever. Like, what's going to happen?
Oh, yeah, Marvel's Avengers, another one. Gone. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I know that has like some sort of a single player thing. I don't know how it works though. If it actually still requires the servers to be around, I'm not sure.
Oh right, it did have a small single player.
That's the thing. I'm not aware, because like I don't know what would happen if Destiny like shut its servers down. Like, would some of the content still work because it's technically there's still soloable stuff? I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that. So that's like its own weird situation. But like in the case of a game like The Crew, where it is just an online game only, that's all it is. It's like, okay, well, we need to have a conversation then about what that is. And if that means the government has to step in and be like, hey guys, if you're going to make a game that is specifically online only, and it's going to and you're going to start with server based, there needs to be the framework in so that this can still be playable after you shut that down. No ifs, ands, or buts, or you will be sued. You will be fined. Like, that's honestly going to be interesting down the road, because I don't know how that would work. Would we actually be able to do a class action lawsuit against Ubisoft for that?
Probably.
Again, not a lawyer, wouldn't have a goddamn clue, but I'm sure at some point we'll get a story about this, whether it's Ubisoft or somewhere else down the road. Somebody's going to do it, and we're going to see like actually how it runs in court. In the same way that it took a while for us to finally see some countries start to really clamor down on loot boxes. You know, it's eventually going to come to a point where, and it will always be Europe, because Europe's always the first to do it. Whether it's Belgium, because they seem to be always on top of this shit, or the Netherlands, or somewhere else out there. Someone's going to start the ball, and we'll see what happens. It really should be the U.S. Like, let's be real. It needs to be the U.S. The U.S. government needs to step in, because if they do it, everyone else will follow, because they have to. Because everyone knows that when the U.S. starts something, it generally follows everywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, and the U.S. seems to be, when it comes to this industry, like the last to act. Almost always.
Almost always.
Yeah.
It's just a damn shame, because there's so much good stuff out there that, again, no one's ever going to be able to play again. And it's not always like, look, we'll be honest, do we actually care that The Crew is shut down for good? I don't care. But it's not the game that I care about. It's the principle of what's happening, because it may not be happening right now to a game I like, but at some point it will. Like I said, Helldivers 2 is a very distinct possibility.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And it could be next year, could be 5 years from now, could be 10 years from now. I have no clue. And who knows? Maybe I won't ever play it again by the time that happens, but that doesn't matter. It's a game I like, and you never know if I'm ever going to want to go back to it.
We will. I know we will. Like, I know I will, because of nostalgic reasons of...
We're going to eventually be playing Killing Floor 3, and at some point we're just going to be like, yeah, but it's near Christmas. We need to go play the Santa map in Killing Floor 2 again, because that's what we do every December.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Well, there is one thing I want to thank Ubisoft for, and by closing The Crew, you have eliminated an item from my backlog that I never even got a chance to play. So I guess I beat a game.
I guess I'll thank them too, because you just give me more reasons to never give you any more of my fucking money. So here's to you guys. Specifically you, Eves, you piece of shit.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, any last thoughts you got here? Otherwise, we're going to get this episode off the air, and then we will get our side quest out for you guys for Friday then.
Yeah, no, I got no other thoughts. I hope something's done because there's so many games I'm thinking about now that are servers, Lethal Company, stuff like that. Now, I'm pretty
Actually,
sure
no, I think
Lethal
Lethal
Company.
Company is a case where it is. I'm trying to remember how it's set. Maybe it is. Maybe. See, that's the thing. I don't know because without that, like, as we call it with like Killing Floor or Counter Strike, there's the list of servers and you can see like how many people are in there, what map it's on. Like, without seeing that directly, I don't know what the framework is for a lot of these games. So it's hard to say. Like, but like Payday, for example, I don't know if that's how it's set up as or not. Like any MMORPG. What happens then? Like we've seen
Oh,
Final
they'd be
Fantasy
done.
11 made a resurgence because other people got the servers back up and everything's running again. Like what's like it's stuff like that where it's like there's all these games that somewhere in the future you're not gonna be able to play anymore, but that shouldn't be a thing because you paid your money for that game. You own it. You should be able to play it whenever you want to play it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It sucks.
So
That's
yeah,
my final thought. This
fuck
sucks.
Ubisoft. My
Yeah,
favorite thing to
fuck 'em.
say all the time. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Like I said, 250 subs, serial episode. Let's
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
get there. Let's go.
Fuck yeah.
Obviously, if you want to see us further, obviously the side quest up on YouTube. You can just search PixelPlay Podcast. I think the official link now is youtube.com/@PixelPlaycast, I think is the full link, but I'm not quite 100% certain on that because it's weird. Like it still throws me off that the @ symbol is there. It's weird in retrospect
It is
because like
weird.
mine used to just be youtube.com/csradical. Like mine when I was using mine all the time, like that was easy. It's done. Whereas now it's like @ symbol, and I'm like, YouTube, why? Why did you have to make it complicated? But alas. But yeah, if you want to check out our side quests, like I said, we're going to be talking about games that we think could really benefit from the 2.5D remaster treatment. That'll be something you can look forward to then. But obviously, our link tree, linktr.ee/pixelplaypodcast, where you got link to our socials, link to our Discord. If you want to shoot the shit with us there, we will always be happy to talk to you guys there. And yeah, depressing, but hey, the industry sucks a lot. Let's be real. So
It does.
the next time it happens, we will talk about it again. Who knows? Maybe it'll even be next week because the industry always loves to taketh. That's what I keep finding.
Yeah.
The industry loves to take.
They take, and they take.
So that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye for now.